But if you're the National Football League, okay, clearly it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else. And I'm going to tell you, I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion.
The $50 million robbery of Shedeur Sanders. Because that's what I just witnessed. Everywhere we've seen, everything we've seen, everybody that has seen him play said he is the one or two in this draft. I love Cleveland picking this kid.
The NFL draft is usually a time of celebration, a moment when dreams come true and talent gets recognized. But in the spring of 2025, that dream took a sharp turn for Shedeur Sanders. Instead of a milestone, it became a nightmare. One that might lead to one of the biggest lawsuits the NFL has faced in years. Shedeur, the Colorado Buffaloes quarterback and son of Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, was once expected to be a top 10 draft pick. But instead, he slid all the way down to the 5th round, pick number 144, by the Cleveland Browns. Now, quiet speculation has grown into loud conversations. Reports say the Sanders family is getting ready to take legal action against the NFL and several team owners, accusing them of collusion, defamation, and causing long-term financial harm. And the more you look into it, the more complicated it seems. From the outside, Shedeur's sudden drop in the draft doesn't add up.
What we're looking at is a convergence of a lot of history falling into one weekend. There's a history of the NFL and their ideas about protecting the shield and what they feel like. There's histories of the Sanders, history of the quarterback, which makes this really complicated and pretty much impossible to find one specific answer about why Sanders fell. He was probably already a fringe first-round pick, so some of the mock drafts were wrong. There's probably some owners out there who wanted to humble him and Sanders, and then there's just the talent that was there. So I'm not, it's okay, I think, to say we don't know what the specific answer is. What I do know, though, and I know it's maybe a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like it's important to say, I want to say this to folks on the internet and folks who are paying attention. This is not the Colin Kaepernick situation. This is important to know. Colin Kaepernick was absolutely blackballed from the league for standing up for folks' rights. This is not what Shedeur Sanders went to. He was embarrassed for 48 hours in the draft, and he ended up going to a Browns team where he still could possibly be a starter on that team because they managed to have half of Wu-Tang Clan's worth of bad quarterbacks, and he can still work his way up to a starter. So this is not the same situation. His career can still end up being okay.
Shedeur Sanders led the entire NCAA in completion percentage with an impressive 74.1%, broke several school records, and was right at the center of what many called the most talked about college football storyline in the last 20 years. With months of hype suggesting he wouldn't fall past the early second round, the expectation was clear. But instead, he had to sit through 3 painfully long days. Then came pick number 144, a moment that quickly went viral for all the wrong reasons. The cameras at his private draft party cut away. The champagne never even got opened. The room went completely silent. Deion Sanders didn't hold back afterward. According to those close to him, he was furious, allegedly saying, "This league just blackballed my son." At first, it sounded like a heartbroken father speaking out, but not long after, the leak started.
Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country entering this draft, and 32 teams passed on him? Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times they passed on him. How the hell does that happen? 4 rounds. It doesn't happen to a quarterback. We've never seen anything like this before. We've seen guys drop because of injuries. We've seen guys drop because of off-field issues, but we've never seen a quarterback projected to be a top 20 pick, universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, projected to be a first rounder, in all likelihood a safe bet of a late first rounder, and drop literally to the 5th round. We haven't seen anything like that.
So a lot of times when you go to these combine meetings, teams give you things to challenge you. Teams will have a player's worst plays ready for him, and they'll show him his worst plays and say, "Hey, why don't you explain them?" And Shedeur apparently didn't take to it well. And at one point, one of the few teams that actually was interested in him said, well, what do you make of this really bad play? And Shedeur said, maybe I'm not the guy for you. That's not the answer. Another moment. What they do during the film and the combine and the meetings is teams will install mistakes intentionally planted in the install, and they want you to catch them. Shedeur didn't, and when a coach called him out, once again, it didn't sit well. It's like, bro, there's not many teams needing quarterbacks, especially since Pittsburgh appears to have a deal with Aaron Rodgers and Tennessee's getting Cam Ward. So you're down to the Giants, who were not interested at all, and Cleveland, who traded out of that 2 spot because clearly they were looking for next year's class like the Rams are.
Based on internal messages uncovered by a private investigator working with Shedeur Sanders' legal team, messages that haven't been made public yet but are currently being looked into by several independent news outlets, it looks like a few NFL team owners may have raised red flags about the media frenzy and the branding baggage tied to Shedeur. Even more concerning, there are reported claims that some team ownership groups were having behind-the-scenes talks, quietly advising each other to steer clear of drafting Shedeur unless they absolutely had no choice. People close to the Sanders camp say these private conversations even mentioned things Deion said back during Super Bowl week. Those blunt interviews where Coach Prime made it clear they would call the shots and wouldn't play for certain teams. Basically, they were following the same playbook Eli Manning used.
Will you step in Eli Manning like, Deion Sanders like, to the point where like you told him, hey man, I ain't taking that psych test with the Giants. I followed you after that. I said I wasn't taking it either. Will you step in and do some of that if it's the wrong organization and say he ain't going there?
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it publicly. I'll do it privately.
This time around, though, the league supposedly answered with a wall of silence and behind-the-scenes sabotage. According to insiders, the upcoming lawsuit is expected to claim that the NFL worked together to hurt Shedeur's draft stock, not because of his skills, but because of how things looked in the media, internal politics, and bruised egos.
If they played the cards and picked him up in the 5th round, but I surely would like to know how they knew he would still be there in the 5th round. I've been on that stage for years and years and years. I've never seen them position the cameras in position, give forewarning about who's about to be drafted. I wonder if Cleveland got a call from somebody in the NFL saying, we got to draft this kid. You just robbed this young man of $50 million. And it wasn't on his playing ability. Wow. Shame on you.
Primetime Deion Sanders' natural bravado, coupled with that of his son. They say that the whole interview process wasn't that impressive when he showed up at the NFL scouting combine and refused to work out. That hurt him. The interview process while he was there hurt him, etc., etc. You know what, y'all? I get it. It makes perfect damn sense if he's drafted in the 2nd round. It's the fact that he fell to 5th that's alarming.
After the draft, analysts on Fox Sports tried to make sense of the slide. Some said Shedeur wasn't a once-in-a-generation type of player. Others questioned his intangibles or pointed to the so-called baggage he brought with him. But instead of cooling things down, those comments only added fuel to the fire for Sanders' legal team. They're asking, how does a quarterback with a higher completion percentage than the #1 overall pick fall more than 130 spots? Why did draft experts rate him so highly, yet not one NFL GM publicly pushed back when he slid? From the Sanders camp's point of view, this wasn't just a case of a poor team fit. It looked more like a deliberate effort to send a clear message. Players don't get to control their future. That power belongs to the league. And nothing seemed to capture that message more clearly than Colin Cowherd's widely shared line: "Nobody wants a celebrity backup quarterback." According to sources, that quote is already being looked at closely by attorneys and has shown up in early versions of the legal filing. To them, it's more than just a jab. It's part of the case.
#2 role still up for grabs? Are you guys still competing for that #2 role?
#2 role?
Like #2 starting quarterback.
Oh,
yeah.
Honestly, bro, I really don't look into that. I don't care. whenever it's time for me to get out there and play, I'm gonna play. Adversity, things is gonna knock you down sometimes, but the main thing about it is you just gotta push through it. There's a lot of people in this world that's going through stuff, but I'm playing for a lot more than just me.
Yes.
And will he kind of be the backup?
Joe will start the game, Dylan will play second, Shedeur will play third.
Shedeur Sanders is done with the chatter. After head coach Kevin Stefanski slotted him as the third-string quarterback behind Dylan Gabriel, he didn't blink. No panic, no backpedaling, just steady confidence. He made it clear he won't get caught up in labels or outside noise. Say what you want, but when the stage is brightest, he intends to be brighter. Sanders isn't wasting energy on distractions. He's locked in, focused, and ready to let his play speak for itself the moment he steps on the field.
Whenever it's time for me to get out there and play, I'm gonna play. Whenever it's time for the lights to come on, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm not concerned about when it is. I'm not concerned about, how many reps I'm getting at this point. Is what it is, because I know when the lights come on, when everything go on, when the pressure's on, you know who I am.
Shedeur Sanders isn't losing sleep over Kevin Stefanski's depth chart or the situation around it. He's certain that when his number is called, the film will force a second look at every assumption. Practice rotations and outside noise aren't his focus. He trusts his preparation and what he brings to the position. The equation is simple. When the pressure is real and the lights are hot, he'll answer it and quiet the doubts. He's not chasing validation anywhere else. The field is where he'll do his talking. This isn't just a solo climb for him either. He views his supporters as part of the mission, not spectators on the sideline. He's navigated stretches like this before and found a way through, and that same mindset drives him now. Every window that opens, he plans to seize. The message doesn't change. The work never stopped, the standard hasn't moved, and he's ready to prove it again the moment opportunity meets preparation.
The main thing about it is you just gotta push through it. There's a lot of people in this world that's going through stuff, but I'm playing for a lot more than just me, so regardless of pain, that's always how I've been, even in college, so in high school and everything from when I was young, regardless of physically, if I don't feel my best, I still gotta go out there and execute with no excuses.
Since landing in Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders says his perspective has shifted. Simply lacing up for practice each day feels like a gift he used to imagine, not live. He's embracing patience, fully prepared to wait his turn, and when that window opens, he intends to sprint through it. Until then, the plan is simple. Stack work, refine the details, and be over-prepared when the call comes. To critics, he doesn't frame this chapter as a setback at all. It's the runway. This is time to tighten footwork, sharpen reads, and stay mentally locked in for what's next. He's clear that when the moment arrives, he'll put the whole toolkit on display and let the tape answer the questions. The focus hasn't wavered, the workload hasn't eased, and the standard hasn't moved. When opportunity meets preparation, he intends to show exactly who he is and what he can do.
I would say I learned life in a different perspective, and that's why I come here. I'm happy. I always got good energy because, I'm blessed to come out here.
And he's backing it up. In his latest practice, Shedeur Sanders showed exactly what cooking looks like. He came out a touch sluggish while shaking off the last of the injury effects, then locked into rhythm. By the end, one throw stole the entire session, an eye-catching rip that reminded everyone he's trending back to full form. That single play said more than a soundbite ever could. It wasn't just 6 points. It was a snapshot of poise, placement, and field vision. The way he worked through the look, trusted his mechanics, and delivered on time matched the confidence he's been voicing. It was the kind of ball that makes coaches pause, teammates lean in, and critics pump the brakes. Sanders addressed Dylan Gabriel's recent comments with calm and maturity. Even after Gabriel clarified they weren't aimed directly at him, Shedeur said he didn't spend a second dwelling on it. He believes God gives him the steadiness to stay grounded and avoid reacting to every headline. The noise is irrelevant. His focus stays the same. Whatever's said, so be it. Still, his posture told you he understood the subtext. He carried himself like someone who knew the message had him in mind, and he turned it into quiet fuel. The composure wasn't about pretending nothing happened. It was about showing he's bigger than the back and forth. He knows the real answer won't come from a podium. It'll come when he steps between the lines and lets the tape speak.
Honestly, I don't even think about nothing. I don't think about anything. If it's not words or anything, at this point, it can't do anything to me. I know, the God put the ability and the power within me to not even think about nobody else's comments, not care. It is what it is. I spoke with him. He said, nah, bro, that wasn't. He said, that wasn't. He told me on the plane. He came up. He was like, nah, bro, that wasn't at you. I see how they trying to spin. I'm like, oh, all right. I'm not tripping, regardless of whatever it was.
He's right to ignore most of it. Not every take deserves oxygen. There will always be bandwagon critics who pile on when things look rough and pivot the second momentum flips. The same voices throwing shots now will rush to celebrate him once he delivers. And you can bet Colin Cowherd will be near the front of that line. He's been all in on the skepticism around Shedeur Sanders lately, using every opening to question him. Cowherd praised Kevin Stefanski for elevating Dillon Gabriel to quarterback 2 and sliding Shedeur to 3rd, calling it the smart, low-risk move and proof of Stefanski's top-tier instincts. But it's hard to miss how quickly Cowherd writes Shedeur off, as if he's eager to see a miss before the kid gets a fair runway. Cowherd didn't stop there. He mocked Shedeur and his supporters, pointing out that several franchises were searching for starters and many more needed steady backups, and none chose him. He hammered the draft optics too. Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round versus Shedeur in the 5th, framing that as the league's verdict. In his telling, the message is already settled. Shedeur's backers may have shrugged at that before, but, as Cowherd puts it, the numbers make the case.
And many of us believe Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, is the one that nudged the front office into drafting him. So the Browns drafted Dillon Gabriel 2 rounds before. So you can run to your Reddit board and dogpound.com and say it's a conspiracy, but the whole league told you he's a 5th-round quarterback. And the Browns are telling you, Kevin Stefanski, who won 11 games in 2023 with nonsense in a division with the Ravens, in the AFC.
Shedeur Sanders' time in Cleveland is turning into a story of resilience, focus, and quiet resolve. Even as the 3rd-string quarterback behind Dillon Gabriel, he hasn't let rankings or outside opinions throw him off course. From day one, he's kept his eyes on the bigger picture, steady growth, daily preparation, and being ready the second his opportunity arrives. Every critique is fuel, not a verdict, and he's using it to sharpen his game. His recent work on the field backs that up. Coming off injury, he settled in quickly and found his rhythm, capping practice with a pinpoint touchdown that stood out as the day's highlight. The timing, placement, and poise on that throw reflected the same confidence he's been preaching, reading the look, trusting his mechanics, and executing cleanly. It's the kind of rep that gets a coach's attention, earns teammates' trust, and makes skeptics pause. Sanders' maturity shows in how he handles chatter from teammates, rivals, and the media. Whether responding to Dillon Gabriel's comments or brushing off negative noise, he stays grounded, crediting faith and focus for keeping him steady. He knows the talk is part of the job, and he's committed to letting the film speak louder than any quote. Meanwhile, critics like Colin Cowherd have leaned into the doubts, pointing to draft status, Gabriel in the 3rd round, Shedeur in the 5th, and the lack of immediate interest from teams as proof the league has already made up its mind. Sanders isn't letting that define him. He understands success isn't about early labels. It's about persistence, preparation, and performance when it counts. As he keeps stacking work and embracing each rep, it's clear he's preparing for the moment his potential becomes undeniable. The road may be tough, but his discipline and mindset suggest he's more than capable of rising above doubt and making his mark in the NFL. What's your read on Shedeur Sanders' approach so far? Do you think his patience and focus will pay off once he gets real snaps? And how much do takes like Colin Cowherd's actually impact a young quarterback? Do they hinder, or do they add fuel?
Guess is they go 0-4, maybe they go 1-3. Haslam's going to come down on Sunday, October 5th. And he says, I want Shedeur to play against Minnesota. And the staff's going to say, we're in London. It's rough. Just give us one more week. We don't want Shedeur having to go overseas. It's a big ask. And so they stave off the owner for a week. Flacco loses that game. I believe Shedeur starts Sunday, October 12th.
I'll keep saying it. I believe Shedeur Sanders should play more games than any other quarterback on this roster this year, because he's the only guy that I look at and say they might have something here, because I'm telling you right now.
Big news coming out of Cleveland. Sources say the Browns ownership has made it clear they want Shedeur Sanders as their starting quarterback. According to Colin Cowherd, Sanders has quickly emerged as the frontrunner for the QB1 spot. And this isn't just talk. Word is, the owners plan to push hard on team leadership to make sure he starts right from week 1. This could be the start of a brand new chapter in Cleveland, with the talented Shedeur Sanders leading the way.
Jimmy Haslam, many believe, forced Andrew Berry and Stefanski to draft Shedeur Sanders. They drafted Dillon Gabriel probably a round or two early, hoping to get out of the Shedeur sweepstakes. So the question is, at some point, Haslam's going to come down and say, play Shedeur Sanders.
Colin Cowherd also dropped some inside info about what's going on behind the scenes. It turns out it's not just the front office pushing for the switch. Browns owner Jimmy Haslam has been a major driving force in this decision. Cowherd shared that Haslam actually stepped in and pressured head coach Kevin Stefanski to go with Shedeur Sanders, even though Stefanski wasn't initially on board. In fact, Stefanski reportedly tried to stop it from happening by drafting quarterback Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round, just 2 picks ahead of Sanders. But now, Haslam is once again inserting himself into the mix, pushing Stefanski and the coaching staff to start Shedeur right out of the gate. The pressure is building, and it's starting to look like Shedeur could be taking over the reins sooner than anyone expected. Still, Cowherd pointed out that despite the owner's strong push, the coaching staff and front office remain hesitant to throw Sanders in immediately. They're apparently exploring ways to ease him into the starting role rather than rushing him onto the field. But Cowherd made it clear, this move feels inevitable. The Browns' ownership is all in on Shedeur, believing he's the future of the franchise and the key to turning the team into a serious title contender. Cowherd also brought up something interesting. It's not just about what Shedeur can do on the field. The ownership sees an opportunity to make headlines. Starting Shedeur would generate serious buzz, and that seems to be part of the plan. Cowherd referenced past situations with Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson, where ownership gave their full backing even when the coaching staff had reservations. Now, it's Shedeur who's in the spotlight, and the Browns owners are betting big on his star power to bring both wins and national attention to Cleveland.
But if you believe, and many do, that the owner, he's the one that wanted Manziel, he's the one that did Deshaun Watson, he's the one that wanted Baker Mayfield. This is an ownership group that likes headlines at quarterbacks. Shedeur's a headline. Dillon Gabriel's not. I mean, look, we're paying attention to the Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns GM Andrew Berry also shared his thoughts on the matter, making it clear that the team didn't bring in Shedeur Sanders just to have him ride the bench. In a recent statement, Berry stressed that Sanders was drafted with the intention of competing for the starting quarterback job. He pointed out that Shedeur has both the skill and determination to go head-to-head with the current QBs on the roster and make a strong case to be the #1 option.
Shedeur, we talk oftentimes about quarterback being the most important position in the sport. We obviously spent a lot of time with Shedeur throughout the process. He's highly accurate, can play well from the pocket. Very productive college career. And
GM Andrew Berry also gave some insight into the Browns' draft approach, revealing something pretty interesting. Heading into the draft, the team had no plans to pick up 2 quarterbacks, and they definitely didn't expect Shedeur Sanders to still be available by the 5th round. But when he was still on the board, the Browns didn't hesitate. They jumped on the chance to grab him. That unexpected move shows just how much they believe in Sanders' potential. What started as a surprise pick is quickly turning into a legit battle for the starting job. Shedeur hasn't just been filling a roster spot, he's embraced the challenge from the very beginning. Since day 1 of OTAs, he's been turning heads with his calm, under pressure, accuracy, and relentless drive. Every practice has only added to the belief that Berry made the right call. Shedeur is no longer just a rookie looking to prove himself. He's a serious player in the starting quarterback race. When Sanders was chosen in the 5th round, A lot of people figured he'd be a backup at best, or maybe a long-term project. It's rare for someone picked that late to even be considered for a starting role. Usually, fifth-round quarterbacks are seen as developmental guys who need time before they're ready to contribute. But Shedeur is flipping that script. Instead of quietly learning behind the scenes, Sanders is making a clear impact during OTAS. He's confidently leading huddles, staying composed in high-pressure moments, and impressing the coaching staff with his smart decision-making. It's obvious now, he didn't come in just to watch and learn. He came to compete. His performance has changed the conversation, and he's now firmly in the mix for the starting job. What looked like a low-key draft pick at first is starting to look like a bold move with real upside. The buzz around Shedeur Sanders is growing fast, and he's become one of the most talked-about players in Cleveland this offseason.
You're drafted in the 4th round or later, you're instantly running with the 2s. More often than not, even the 3rd round or later, you're more likely running with the 2s. Though Shedeur is probably going to still be running with the 4s, the coaches suggested there's going to be a fair opportunity for everybody.
NFL insider Peter Schrager says this year could be a turning point for Shedeur Sanders. Even though he was a 5th-round pick, Schrager shared that Sanders is expected to get a real shot to play, something that doesn't usually happen for quarterbacks taken in the middle rounds during their rookie year. That says a lot about how much confidence the Browns have in his potential. They're not just bringing him in to slowly develop over time. They truly believe he's ready to make an impact right away.
Quarterback is always going to be looming in every conversation. So I think they're going to want to get those guys action, Gabriel and Sanders. I think they're going to want to have one veteran quarterback. I don't know if there's a value in having both of those veteran quarterbacks and then having 2 rookies on the roster as well.
Fans are fired up as they look ahead to the upcoming open training sessions, where they'll finally get a chance to see the Cleveland Browns hit the field. And there's one name on everyone's lips, Shedeur Sanders. With ownership fully backing him, Browns fans are feeling more hopeful than ever, especially after landing one of the most exciting quarterback prospects the league has seen in a while. Shedeur has quickly won over the fan base, and the hype around him is real. No matter the age, fans across Cleveland are eager to watch him showcase his skills up close. There's a real buzz in the air. And with the front office pushing for him to lead the franchise, this year's training camp is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated in recent memory. Fans are ready to show up in full force to see Shedeur put on a show. This moment is something Shedeur has been grinding for. He's been locked in through OTAs and minicamps, even during times when things didn't quite go his way. He hasn't always gotten the number of reps he wanted, but he's kept his focus on the bigger picture. As Shedeur put it, you have to understand your situation. Whether you're getting those reps or not, it's all about how you respond. That attitude has fueled his work ethic. While others may have let those setbacks slow them down, Shedeur used it as motivation to keep pushing forward. He stayed locked in, kept putting in the work, and continued sharpening his game. Now he's steadily rising up the depth chart, and his hard work is starting to pay off. The Browns have taken notice. Shedeur has gone from being a promising rookie to becoming a key part of the team's future. With full support from ownership and growing confidence from leadership, he's no longer just a long-term project. He's the front-runner for the starting QB job. At first, there was hesitation from the front office and coaching staff, but his performance during camp has turned heads and changed minds. The story has shifted, and at this point, it's tough to imagine anyone else stepping into that starting role. The excitement around Shedeur isn't just coming from within the organization. Fans all over Cleveland are getting behind him. From the youngest fans to the lifelong diehards, the city is rallying around its new quarterback. For Browns fans, Shedeur represents more than just a player. He's a symbol of what's possible. His rise has sparked new energy throughout the community, and every day it becomes clearer that he's not going anywhere. The Shedeur Sanders era is kicking off in Cleveland, and fans are ready to follow his lead. With ownership applying pressure and Shedeur continuing to deliver, it puts the coaching staff in a tough spot. Will Kevin Stefanski stick to his guns, or will the front office's influence win out? Let me know what you think. Will Shedeur take that starting job, or does Stefanski have another plan in mind?
I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened. By the way, Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League, now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
I understand in a situation like that, when it comes to the 3s and 4s that you're playing with that aren't going to be on the squad and not going to make the team, give your quarterback a chance. Okay, you know what? You know they can't hold up that long? Let's play quick game. Let's play quick game just to get Shedeur in the goddamn rhythm. But no, you come out, calling regular offensive plays.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, He was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Shedeur Sanders wasn't just tossed into the game last night, he was dropped into a no-win setup. Nothing about it felt accidental. From his first snap, it looked like one player against the entire machine. The Cleveland Browns, led by head coach Kevin Stefanski, seemed intent on cooling the hype and slowing his momentum. Instead, the plan backfired. The performance and the circumstances around it have sparked a wave of scrutiny, with analysts and reporters now calling out Stefanski and the Browns front office for engineering a preseason situation that stacked the deck against Shedeur.
I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to...
Stephen A. Smith said from the outset that the entire preseason would be engineered to undermine Shedeur Sanders. He argued that even starting the first preseason game was part of a plan to make him stumble, fueling the idea that he's just a fifth-round pick, and validating the skeptics. Whether that blueprint existed before the games kicked off or not, it didn't stop there. Now, attention has turned to Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns for placing Shedeur in an unfamiliar system and circumstances that set him up to falter. Garrett Bush echoed that criticism, noting that regardless of how hard Shedeur worked before and after practices, he was never treated as a true priority in their plans.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Kevin Stefanski doubled down, saying his group was executing and placing the responsibility squarely on Shedeur Sanders for the miscues. When pressed on whether having Shedeur work all week with third and fourth team units contributed to the mistakes, Stefanski wouldn't budge. Rather than acknowledge that first team reps might have better prepared a rookie, he waved off the idea and reiterated that his job is to develop young players. But what kind of development plan withholds meaningful snaps with starters, then drops a promising prospect into live action and expects him to run concepts he's never practiced with them?
All of our players, Mary Kay, there's things that we can do better, and there's some good moments out there, but that's what our job as coaches, to develop.
Skip Bayless weighed in as well, blasting the Cleveland Browns for their handling of Shedeur Sanders and calling it just about the worst approach imaginable. He said the issues fit a troubling pattern under Kevin Stefanski, with Sanders repeatedly mishandled instead of developed. In Bayless's view, this wasn't a one-off mistake. Sanders hasn't been given real opportunities or meaningful support. That treatment has only increased the pressure and made it even harder for him to succeed.
I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened by the way Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League.
Chad Johnson added that by surrounding Shedeur Sanders with offensive players unlikely to make the roster, Kevin Stefanski effectively stacked the deck against him. He argued that even a quarterback of Tom Brady's caliber would have struggled in that setup. Analysts have echoed the point, putting the blame on the coaching staff for failing to give Shedeur a fair platform to succeed. Ochocinco also warned that critics would soon brand Shedeur a failure and dismiss him as a fifth-string option, while ignoring the core problem, who engineered the situation in the first place. Despite the noise, he framed the backlash as part of a broader effort to drag Shedeur down, noting that some people seem more intent on tearing him apart than acknowledging the circumstances that shaped his performance.
You just beat the guy. And that's okay. You get paid, he gets paid. Sometimes Ocho just gonna win because Ocho was just the better player. Sometimes the defensive back is gonna win. He wins some, you win more than you lose.
Right. Despite the noise, Shedeur Sanders never criticized head coach Kevin Stefanski or anyone else. He put the outcome on himself and focused on what he could control. He acknowledged there was plenty to clean up and committed to doing the work. He framed it as a learning opportunity, refusing to let one preseason outing define him. Like a veteran, he owned the mistakes, recognizing he needed better eye discipline on those designed runs and smarter decisions to keep the offense on schedule. He even took responsibility for every sack, stating they were on him. The response was measured and mature, reflecting his grasp of the position and his readiness to improve.
No, I gotta watch the film, honestly. I can't say what it was. It's definitely different places where I could got my eyes in better spots and got to the progressions quicker and regardless of anything, so all those sacks, they definitely on me.
How long can Shedeur Sanders keep absorbing the blame on his own? How long before the decision makers who've steered this process either stand up for him or at least grant him a fair look. More and more voices around the league see this as deliberate. Shedeur cleared the first gauntlet, but he's still tangled in the same net. That's the core problem. Not one preseason outing, but an apparatus that keeps tilting the field. The treatment of Shedeur Sanders forces hard questions about fairness, opportunity, and bias in the NFL. Despite the obstacles placed in front of him, he's responded with poise, owning his performance, identifying areas to improve, and committing to growth. But the larger issue isn't his willingness to learn, it's the structure around him that keeps narrowing his margin for success. His experience with the Browns, being dropped into situations where failure felt pre-written, points to deeper systemic habits. Young players, especially those who don't fit a preferred narrative, get boxed in, judged early, and developed late. This isn't only one quarterback story. It mirrors what countless prospects face when perception, politics, or preconceived roles outweigh on-field evaluation. As analysts and commentators continue to spotlight what's happening, it's clear the conversation about Shedeur Sanders has moved beyond a single depth chart debate. It's about dismantling baked-in biases and delivering a truly even playing field. Shedeur's resilience is real and admirable. The unanswered question is whether the system will evolve fast enough to let players like him do more than survive so they can finally thrive. What do you think?